And let's get to our first topic of discussion today. Now, since taking over leadership of the nation, President Bola Tinubu has been providing an enabling environment for businesses to thrive in the country. President Tinubu has also reiterated his commitment to ensuring consistency in policy and a better business climate to attract investment. He also assures the investors community of his administration's willingness to maintain an open door policy and to address all their concerns. Joining me to look at this development and how it affects the entire market space and, of course, the economy. He is a portfolio manager with AfriInvest West Africa, Mr. Babajide Atolagbe. Thank you so much for your time. It's good to see you, Jide.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me.
Yes, boosting investors' confidence is something that is very, very important at this time. But I would ask you, do you think that we have that transparency and clarity of policy at the moment to drive this investment that is expected? I want us to start this way before we now look at the figures just released by the NBS stating that capital importation is still on the decline.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of transparency, it is the responsibility of the new administration to make sure that Nigeria is seen as a transparent country that can, allow, businesses, and flows to come in to drive economic activities. And in trying to show, a strong level of transparency, we're speaking of having a strong judicial backing, whereby the judicial system is very, very strong, and that it is cases are well represented on a fairly basis without having any form of corruption and all those illegal practices that could make investors to think that if they have judicial issues in the future, that their cases may not be directly cleared on a free and fair basis. So in terms of achieving a strong level of transparency, it is largely a responsibility of the current government to ensure that while they are also pursuing inclusive growth in the economy, they need to ensure that the government is well transparent and responsible to ensure that investors have a required level of confidence to come in.
Interesting stuff. But with what you've seen in the market in recent times, I want to take you that route. Do you see guys coming back? Not really the portfolio investments now, but we also need them, obviously, but also the guys with the big bags, the foreign direct investment that we expect in that space. Are we getting to that point where we might start to see that area looking good?
I think we're gradually approaching that point, and I'm going to say that cautiously because historically, if you look at the trend of foreign direct investment in Nigeria, it has been largely uninspiring, right? And this is largely tied to the weak macroeconomic fundamentals, high inflation, very difficult in doing businesses in Nigeria. We've also have political instability, insecurity here and there, and policy inconsistency from government houses. So all these the plethora of all these factors have hindered FDI from coming into Nigeria, and we've seen instances whereby these flows are going into neighboring countries like Ghana, Togo, and even economies that don't even have a large level of base like Nigeria. So in terms of we getting to a turning point, I believe it's a gradual process because the government is currently taking some key steps that are likely to address this concern that I have highlighted, right? And I mean, it's a different thing to usher out policies and make the market excited or make investors excited. But I mean, the real game comes down to the government being able to actually implement these policies effectively and on the long term to make sure that everything is sustainably going to become better in the nearest future. So I think the government has started taking some good steps, but they need to continue in that direction to make sure that foreign guys and even FDIs can find comfort in doing business in Nigeria.
But there are still some, if I'll call disincentives here now. We still have issues around insecurity. We have issues around multiple taxation. issues around which the president is tackling head on. Though we have issues around lack of infrastructure here, power, skilled manpower, and all of this. How does this affect expected investment drive of Nigeria as a country?
Yeah, it's going to affect it, negatively, because these are surely factors that investors have on their table when conducting the risk assessment, right? But we should not be totally negative, because we're seeing some steps in the right direction. And I mean, you could tell that the government is trying to increase its revenue, generation in the country through the tax, reforms and the tax, strategy that the government is deploying. Also, from the latest policies we've seen, especially the removal of fuel subsidy, it's a strong signal to the market that this government is willing to be responsible in terms of how they expend taxpayers' money. So I mean, the money saved from fuel subsidy and electricity subsidy or what have you, those are material funds that could be deployed into investment in infrastructure, investment in healthcare, education, and all those sectors that are critical to driving the economy back to where we belong.
To understanding how this FX policy should align with the fiscal and monetary policy of government. Some say there must be a sync within all of this. Opening up the market to allow for demand and supply, which is what is happening at the moment, to run the market. Do you see us having a pure headway and guys being able to repatriate their funds? What positives does this hold for us as a country?
It's a very strong signal, in fact, a positive signal, I must say, because I mean, if we're able to address these FX challenges adequately, the government is likely going to be a major beneficiary from this. And over the years, the government has been getting its FX revenue it's being exchanged at 460 levels. Meanwhile, the parallel market, I beg your pardon, is trading at 700 levels. So that variation, the government has been losing out money technically. So now that we have the official rate almost close to the parallel rate, the government is going to enjoy increase in revenue, because the difference in exchange rates is going to increase revenue for the government, and then revenue simply means more money. More money means they can begin to throw money at critical areas of the economy to drive inclusive growth. Also, other than revenue mobilization, I mean, Nigeria has been grappling with weak FX reserve over the last 2 years. Since the pandemic started, our reserve has seen serious pressures, because the major drivers of FX inflow has actually dried up, which is the oil export. But these policies that are currently being dished out to solve the FX concerns are likely going to channel FX from the unofficial market and bring them from the unofficial market to the official market. And then the government now has sufficient liquidity to supply the market. And the case in point is the remittances. Typically, World Bank has said that the total remittance that comes into Nigeria in a single financial year is close to $20 billion, and that's quite significant, right? I mean, if you compare $20 billion to the level of our reserve, you see that it is somewhat material. And meanwhile, the CBN, on the other hand, has been finding out that the remittances that are coming to Nigeria and that are coming through the official window is around $2 billion. So you see that difference. But now that we're having we're chasing a unified exchange rate, whereby both the official and the parallel market will be trading at a single rate, the government can now get more flows from remittances, and that will definitely shore up the reserves, and the government is able to supply to the market generally, and then it's going to have a pass-through effect on the economy, because Nigeria is we have a lot of importers in Nigeria, and when they're able to access this FX at a relatively cheap and competitive price, and market reflective price, I mean, they're able to carry on businesses, and then consumers will not necessarily have to feel the heat of higher prices. So this policies, FX alignment with the fiscal goal. It's a good policy, and it is likely going to yield positive return to the Nigerian government and to the economy if they are properly implemented in the short to medium term.
Interesting. So, Babajide, at a time, treasury bills used to be investors' delights. Even some local investors want to push our monies into treasury bills. And sometimes we look at the fixed income space. Yes, I know we are supposed to pay for this. But can you give us some advice at the moment? Where should we be looking at? Where should we put our monies at this time if we are to, well, both short term, mid term, and of course, long term?
Well, I think it depends on the level of risk investors are willing to take. I must say that currently the interest rate environment is on the high side, and that simply means that investors can get high or competitive interest rates in the capital market, right? But when trying to invest, you need to be conscious of so many factors ranging from liquidity, capital preservation, and income generation. So for investors that are risk adverse, I still think that the treasury bills market, the money market space, speaking largely of treasury bills, placement and fixed deposit are still areas where investors can continue to invest. Risk averse investors can continue to invest pending the time that you find alternative investment. But generally, the stock market has also delivered strong returns in the last 2 to 3 months, right? And that is simply because of the policies and the investors' optimism about the change in the narrative of the country's economic position. So there are still some opportunities in the equity space. Investors should look for stocks with strong fundamentals, financially stable companies that have the prospect to continue to grow. And with a blend of fixed income, equities, and also some alternative options here and there, I think investors are likely to do well and to a very large extent get a total return that is that could compensate for the high inflation that we have currently.
Finally, before I let you go, when we talk investments, many times we look away from subnationals playing a role in driving investments, talking about states here now. What sort of conversations do you expect the president be having with the 36 state governors, 36 state governors with regards to driving investments in the country so that they can be on the same page?
Yeah. Well, I would think that the president will want to encourage state governors to be innovative in their governance approach, right? And not just sit down and relax and wait for FAC allocation to come in before they're able to drive activities in their state. I think the major advice or the major way that state government should do this is by creating a conducive environment that will allow businesses to thrive, so that locals in those communities can also take up businesses and look away from running after civil servant jobs and what have you. And they also need to make sure that security is pretty much tight. So rather than depending only on the federal policing, state government could also tighten their security apparatus by investing largely in security instrument and what have you. And so if you're able to address security and also address the issues of having a good environment for businesses to thrive, you are likely going to have investors coming into to invest. Don't forget, Nigeria has a large percentage of its population in the youthful region. So I mean, there are a lot of laborers, here and there that are willing to take up jobs. So if security is being addressed at the state level, and there are some policies that are market friendly, all of these come together, we're likely to see states begin to excel without having to wait largely on the federal government for allocation.
It's a good way to live it. I've been speaking to a portfolio manager at AfriInvest West Africa. He's an investment analyst with a lot of knowledge, gained a reasonable training and exposure in conducting macroeconomic and industry analysis, equities and fixed income valuation, capital market analysis, and presentation. All for you there. I've been speaking to Mr. Babajide Atolagbe. Thank you so much. Do enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.